Space, the final frontier. Join us for a bold conversation. Our prime directive, to recap our favorite Star Trek shows, both new and old. To engage in debate about all things Trek. Prepare to energize with phasers set to stun.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to a new episode of Phasers Set to Stun, where we continue to show our love for everything Star Trek in this ongoing series from a Film by Podcast, which focuses on every sector of the expanding Star Trek universe by covering television, movies, animation, directors, merchandise, and much, much more. Plotting your course on this voyage is your core Trek crew. I'm Wayne Whited.
I'm David Burns.
And I'm Scott Hoffman.
And now we're halfway into the second half of Star Trek Discovery Season 5, the series' final season. The series has continued to impress us, taking the viewers on a hunt across space to find the pieces of the map that will lead the Discovery to where the progenitors have hid their technology, the tech that was used to create all life in the known galaxy. The crew have 3 of the 5 pieces of the map, and now in this week's episode, titled Whistlespeak, they are on the hunt for the 4th. So, everybody, this is Black Alert. There are spoilers ahead. If you haven't seen this episode yet, please stop and beam yourself to the nearest view screen to catch it on Paramount Plus, then come back and rejoin us for this discussion. Scott, why don't you give us a short summary of this episode?
So, again, the name of it is Whistlespeak, which is one of the more clever titles I think we've seen.
Yeah.
While another ship pursues Mullen Lock, Discovery continues their search for the next clue to the progenitor puzzle. The mysterious vial from the last episode holds a deceptively ordinary clue, distilled water. What seems to be the second to last clue leads them to a pre-warp planet ravaged by drought, where one of the clue masters created disguised rain-generating towers. Burnham and Tilly go undercover on this planet to find out which tower holds their next clue, while also putting the Prime Directive to the test and saving the planet from inevitably turning to a dusty wasteland. Meanwhile, back on the ship, Adira finds a place on the bridge and the courage to find confidence as a trusted source of knowledge, and Dr. Culber continues a quest to figure out the long-term impact of the mission on Trill, which uncovers the start of a spiritual journey.
I don't know about you guys, but I absolutely loved this episode. And it is my favorite episode of the season so far. And I know that's saying a lot because we've had some good episodes. But this episode kept me on the edge of my seat. And it really wasn't that deep of a story. But the planet, the characters, and the civilization that just intrigued me. I mean, this episode wasn't inventing the wheel. It was going back to the roots of Star Trek by giving us a pre-warp civilization that our crew must engage, explore, and understand while writing that Prime Directive. But what also pulled me into the story was the very interesting and unique score that matched the strange world we were encountering.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was epic. It was large. It's that spiritual journey. Colbert was having that spiritual journey, but, even on this planet, we're meeting these people. They are too. They're trying to get the rain. They're trying to get the water to control that dust. But the score really reflects all of that. You have this very unusual world, and you get this really unusual score, and that's what really pulled me into this episode, guys.
You're right too. I mean, I've liked Jeff Russo's music, but I always find a lot of times it goes into the background, but not in this episode. It was phenomenal.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's progressively getting better.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really glad that we started the show that we're doing that we were able to catch Discovery when we did.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think this is going to be one of the better seasons, and I think this is going to be one where they go out on top.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right. It did feel like kind of a self-contained episode, maybe a little bit more than others. It had to do tangentially with the quest, but not necessarily something that was a bunch of twists and turns and all about the clues. It was a great look at the Prime Directive and when to follow it and when not to, which I know gets a little bit fuzzy, but this season started out with Red Directive, right? So it seemed to kind of blur the lines a little bit. I didn't notice until a second viewing how much of a parallel there is between what's going on the ship and what's happening on the surface as far as that spiritual journey.
Yep.
Dave, I think you hit it on the head with, what we're seeing with Dr. Culber. It's nice to know that that's not necessarily a negative thing. There are sometimes when this kind of crisis comes up and it's just going to create a bunch of inner turmoil. It's a little bit more like I think he said, a spiritual awakening, right?
Yep.
But then on the surface, you've also got somebody who's saying, does this challenge everything that I've known? That it's the gods who are doing it. It's not technology. But now that it is technology, how does that impact our spiritual beliefs, and how do those spiritual beliefs drive the core of their society?
Yeah.
This is one where I don't think that what the Prime Directive was created to protect against, kind of the dangers of this happening. I don't think we're going to see that with this. At least I hope we don't. I hope it's fairly self-contained and they just learn how to kind of grow and maybe,
I think so.
Recolonize the rest of the planet, right? But yeah, very well written, very well directed. Great uses of character. It's just going in a great place.
I really enjoyed this episode too. I'm not sure if it's my favorite of the season because I really liked Faces Strange, but once the season's over with, I'll evaluate, and it could very well make it to the top. But this was definitely one of the most Star Trek episodes that was ever made for Discovery. I mean, this really had the feel of the style and the writing that they did for the original series, and I appreciate that. I mean, it's very much a bottle show. You're absolutely right, Scott. And I don't want to feel like I'm nitpicking, because I'm not, because I wanted to state that I really like this episode, but the story had very little to do with the overall story of the season. Except for Discovery finding the piece of the map, and that kind of worries me a little bit, because this is a season with only 10 episodes, and I'm not sure if we really have time to step aside and tell a story like this. I hope I'm wrong. I hope we've got only 4 episodes left, and I hope that it doesn't feel like now with only 4 episodes we have to rush things. I hope that the rest of the season doesn't feel rushed, because we still have a lot to go on this story. I mean, but like I said, this is not picking on this episode, because I love this episode. I thought it was fantastic, and if they had a longer season, this would definitely be on top.
I have a feeling, and I could be wrong with this, I have a feeling they're setting something up for Culber. I know that he's dealt with the Trill, but I have a feeling they're going to kill him off. That's my opinion. I have a feeling that's coming at the end of the season, and that's why this episode is going to be very important.
That's interesting. I didn't think of that, but now that you're mentioning it.
I mean, I could totally be off base on this, but that's what I'm feeling because of the whole spiritual journey that he's going through. He feels like something's off, something's wrong with him because he had the Trill in him. And he runs the neuroscans, he has all the tests, and nothing is wrong with him. I mean, he even does the with his grandmother, the
holodeck thing.
The hologram with his grandma, trying to make him feel normal and get her opinion about the spiritual stuff, because his grandmother was very spiritual. So he's trying to understand all of that, and I think with the show's focus on that, that's where they're leading, in my opinion.
And that would be great, because if they're actually leading something into that storyline with him, then that places this episode as important for the season, and I'm all for that. So I didn't think of that. I'm glad you brought that up.
I'm actually hoping you're wrong.
I do too, Scott.
I do think and I know it's not like, all right, kill off Culber. No,
I don't want to see him. I don't want to see characters die at the end now.
I think it's more. I hope where they're going with this is something similar, but it's not necessarily that Culber would die as much as it's maybe Culber and Stamets end up leaving Discovery and saying there's more to the Federation than what's on Discovery. It sounds like they're not necessarily going to continue exploring the spore drive. There was an episode where I think Stamets was feeling obsolete, right? Because they were going to start to shut that down. And it almost felt like Tilly was... we were seeing some of the struggles that Tilly is having as a teacher subtly come through in this episode. So maybe there's a little bit of something where they follow a similar path of, we're going to take a step back from the adventure of the week and focus more on rebuilding Starfleet in different ways. I could definitely see it going that way, but
I could too.
Yeah, I could too. Yeah.
And it was very interesting that Tony Stark memory-based holographic technology that they were using to recreate his memory. I thought that was a
Right.
great conversation. I thought that was a great use of, like, the person who you used to talk to that's represented by this technology. Understand that it's not the same person. So I'm not going to be able to lead you on that spiritual journey. Although what she says kind of unlocks what he needs to get to that next place.
Right.
Maybe there will be more of that technology kind of used going forward. But yeah, I thought it was great to meet her, and it was great to meet to know that she was the inspiration for him to become a doctor. I thought that was a great addition to that.
It is.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go back to something you said, Scott, on the very first episode we had of Discovery this season. And I cannot stand Cronenberg. I'm sorry.
Yes.
He
yes.
pulls me out of this show all the damn time. And Scott, you said that in the first episode, and I'm like, Scott is right. As soon as that scene happened, I'm like, why are we doing this?
Well, let me talk about him too, because what you bring up, you're right, but I think that's done on purpose. He had such a brief appearance. He appears in a white room, his infinity room. He gives Burnham a list of names written on a piece of paper from a simple, straightforward 21st century notebook. What's up with that? He doesn't look like someone from the 32nd century. He doesn't act like someone from the 32nd century. I'm suspecting there's more to Kovich than we've been led to believe, been told. That whole white room that he was in, and the way it appears, and the way he whisks Burnham away over there, because she was physically there. She took the paper from him, so this wasn't like a hologram or anything. I get strong Celestial Temple vibes with that. You understand what I'm saying with this?
I do.
As if it's sitting outside of time. Is Kovich a time traveler? Is he some sort of relic or something from the temporal wars? I really do think that there's more to him than we know so far.
Interesting.
Okay. It's still I hope that's the case. I hope that there's a little bit more to Kovich that doesn't continue to rub me the wrong way. And I don't know if it's just choices that they make of how to incorporate David Cronenberg's character. I felt like it's the first time that I felt like that character really contributed to helping the story flow, in that once you see the list of names of scientists that contributed to it, that to me seemed like a intentional device of a checklist to say, hey viewers, if you'd like to understand when this thing is going to wrap up, we've got this one and something to do with Beta Z, and then it should wrap up. So it feels like this episode is the second to last clue that they're going to get, and either next week is going to be not finding a clue as much as getting more into Mullen Locke's story, and then finding the next clue, and then figuring out what to do with it. It seems like that could be a good balance. But otherwise, very deadpan delivery and so much exposition about a legal pad. Like, I don't care. I really didn't care about, like, it's not replicated, by the way. It's authentic. It's
fact
real
that
paper.
They were pointing that out. They were making the writers were making a distinction on that. They're pointing that out. That makes me think, are we supposed to pay attention to that? Is there something more going on?
Yeah, I don't know. It felt, maybe there is, and I hope that there is. Because on the surface, it feels very much like, well, I don't want to wear any Star Trek costume. I'll put a pin on my jacket, but that's about it. Otherwise, I'm not going to play. I'm just going to do this, and it almost felt like a kind of a hipster kind of thing to say, like, hey, I found this authentic legal pad for the 21st century. It's kind of like, and look, a bucket of paper clips. Like, I was just like, I think it
could be. It could be nothing. We might be seeing, patterns that aren't there. So, who knows?
Yeah. Right. But at least it was kind of a, it serves its purpose, and then it moves on. So,
on the plus side to this episode, we get to see a little bit more of Raynor growing again. With him and Ensign Tal on the bridge. How he believes in, and explains why you're on the bridge. Help us out, do it, fix this, and it happens. He has really become such a strong character to me.
Yeah. He has.
With Adira having kind of that confidence problem.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That was a good character moment for them. I love that. It really pushed both those characters forward in the story.
Yep. And I liked the. Go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to also point out, I thought the visual effects in this episode were just stunning. They were just absolutely incredible. They have been all season, but that overhead shot of the tower and then in the forest and then it swoops down into the live action, I thought that was incredible. I just love that. Plus that shot of Discovery, it's not warping, but whatever it does, to take off from the planet. I love that. That was my favorite parts of the episode. Was the shot.
On top of that, the whistle speak was freaking awesome.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Listening to the whistle, that is a language like that blew my mind. Mm-hmm. But on top of that, the scene where they save the lady with the dust, and they're ringing the cups, and with the dust was like bouncing. Oh my God, that was so incredible.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Well, even the first shot of the analysis of the water vial, I thought that was beautiful, vibrant, mysterious way to represent basically a glass of water. I mean, but the use of color there was really interesting, and there were a lot of great shots in this one. I think the use of color and composition was definitely on the A game.
Yeah. Let me call out the credits for this. This episode was written by Kenneth Len and Brandon Schultz, and it was directed by Chris Byrne. They definitely need to be mentioned. They need their credits because they just all of them did such a phenomenal job.
Absolutely. Yeah. And another thing that I really enjoyed too, you have Burnham and Tilly that are on this race to get into the summit. We don't know what's going to happen when you enter the summit, which we find out a little bit later. But I like the twist of characters here because Burnham, you would think, is going to be the one that's going to win the race. But in fact, it's Burnham who decides, oh, you know what? I just figured out where the that might be, so I'm going to follow the moss, and basically disqualifies herself, which makes Tilly be the one that has to perform in the race, which leads to Tilly and Rava, played by the wonderful June Lepore, who I thought was phenomenal in this episode.
Yeah.
Gets their character development. You get Rava who, comes back and gets Tilly. Come on, I need some competition. Let's go. And then you get the reverse of that a little bit later, where Rava spills her water. It's all over. She's done. Tilly wins. But then Tilly comes back and puts half of her water in the bowl for Rava. Dude, those two characters were incredible in this episode.
Yeah, for sure. You definitely got a lot more of Tilly in the not only the teacher role, but as the friend role. Like, she's always been supportive of those around her, and it's great to see that shine in this one. I did think that use of the miscolored mutated moss, very clever. Very clever.
It was, yes.
Yep.
We get a little bit of new technology with this one, with the retinal-based tricorder.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Interesting.
An actual advancement, to 32nd century technology. I was glad to see that because we don't get too much of that.
Yeah, it's better than the weapons appearing in your hand.
Yes, exactly. I mean, it makes sense. Yeah. I mean, that makes seems like a natural progression for the tricorder.
Yeah.
Well, in the way that they had kind of the what Burnham was seeing was able to be patched into Adira on the bridge.
Yeah.
So they could both kind of like, okay, you're seeing this, it's on your left, move this isolinear chip or whatever it had to be. The fact that it only impacted one of their eyes, I thought was very interesting.
Yeah, that was cool.
Similar to the transporters, I'm not exactly how somebody, how that kind of intuitive control of the tricorder tech really works, but I'm just going to let it go and just relax and enjoy the show.
Enjoy it.
Yeah.
I think one of the scenes there's so many good scenes in this episode, but the one scene when Burnham decides that she has to break the Prime Directive because she has to save Tilly's life.
Yeah.
And, we find out that Rava's father is still in there, and they're like, you can't do that because he's still in there. Just do it. And then the whole dialogue of her trying to talk him into what's going on, who she is. And he even asked the question, are you a god? And Burnham was like, I am not a god, but maybe I was sent by one. That whole scene was so well done, man. And I'm using that phrase a lot in this episode, which is why I love this episode so much. But then you have all the stuff that's going on inside with Tilly and Rava. And Tilly, again, being that teacher, being that person who cares and wants to listen and learn what Rava has to say. And Rava breaks down. She was all brave this whole episode. She wanted to win that race. She wanted to make her mother, who's passed away, proud, wanted to make her father proud. And now she's in this situation to find out that she has to sacrifice herself, to bring the water, to bring the rain. And now she breaks down, I don't want to die. And, Tilly has to calm her down. And the whole song thing, where she starts humming it, and and then you can hear that through Burnham's, into the other room. And that's when her father's like, how can we hear what they're hearing? And then she has to explain a little bit more. All of that was so good, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah, especially the explanation of kind of that spirituality and technology where they kind of intersect, right?
Mm-hmm.
And saying like you said, maybe there's a greater power that sent me here, that sent the people who put the technology here. Like, it's not something that questions your faith. It's something that's going to help your planet continue to survive without having to go through rituals like a sacrifice. I think there's some evolution there in things that can help to advance the entire planet. I mean, it feels like from here, they're going to learn how to maintain the one tower that keeps their one little microcosm continuing to survive, but maybe they're able to go back to the other towers that have failed and maybe take the planet back, right? Maybe that thrive a little bit more, and maybe that's part of the point. Maybe that's a planet where they could maybe extend their footprint, or maybe they could welcome other species onto the planet and maybe expand a little bit more. So that it was very interesting. The whole sacrificial nature of the thirst race was very cool. How they had the different bowls kind of peppered throughout the woods. It felt like there's a very supportive nature to the entire race, not just between Tilly and Rava, but all of the racers. It didn't seem like anybody was like shoving somebody out of the way or getting insanely competitive about it. It was very supportive, very much like, okay, we've got you, go on to the next thing, and then cheering people on when they get to the end. It was a fascinating way of, making people have a respiratory problem in the race to symbolize what somebody had gone through in the past. That was very clever.
It was
very great writing in that scene.
So now we've given our opinions on the episode. Let's take a look at the characters themselves. Which character do you think shined the most this week?
I kind of already given it away a little bit. I think it was Rava, played by June Lepore. She played such an innocent role, again, wanting to make her mother proud and her father, but only in the end we learn that she's scared and, doesn't want to die. You see so much of her character coming back to get Tilly in that race. And, I just thought June Lepore played a phenomenal role in this episode. I thought she stole the show, in my opinion. I really do.
Scott, what do you think?
So I'm going to pick Tilly again. I think pretty consistently throughout this series, she's one of my favorite characters. I think Tilly's critical nature to this mission, beyond what's involved in, exploring this technology and trying to figure out where the clue is and things like that, but her role of kind of queen of endurance, like she said, right? A body in motion stays in motion. It reminded me very much of the episode where she was hallucinating an old friend, but she was kind of infected by a bacteria or something like that. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
But her devotion to making sure that Rava got through without falling behind. And Dave, like you mentioned, giving her some water so that Rava wouldn't have an empty bowl. And she knew how much that meant to her. Those kind of decisions, if they are breaking the Prime Directive and now they're aware that there's aliens out there that took this very specific role, right? Now they have 3 instances. They've got Burnham's choice, they've got Tilly's choices, and they've got the people who used the progenitor technology in the first place to help the planet continue to survive. I think all of those are things that maybe would make them a bit less prone to be xenophobic, if that's where they might go. But it seems like they still have room to evolve in their own pace. So I'd go Tilly. Wayne, what about you?
Well, after hearing David's reason, I actually agree with him, but I chose Tilly because this episode she's finally able to get off the ship and play a major and important part in the story. I've had a love-hate relationship with Mary Wiseman's portrayal of Tilly ever since her introduction way back in the first episode, first season. But lately, she's been given so little to do that I'm just happy to see her have so much in this episode. She really shined for me. Plus, you know, they're laying the hints, you know, with the storyline with the Academy that I really hope that this isn't the end of her character, that we don't, you know, this isn't the last we see of her. I hope they continue her into the Starfleet Academy series. I think she could play an important part of that series, and I feel like they're laying the seeds for that.
I agree.
Absolutely.
And I think you're both right. I mean, it was tough for me when it came down to who I was going to choose. You know, Tilly or Rava. It came down to both of them.
Oh, they both deserve it. Yeah.
They do. They both did a phenomenal job in this episode. And with those two characters, they really drove this story. They really did.
If you have the choice to be any character that appeared in this episode, which one would it be and why? Scott, I'll have you start this one.
With me, it would be Dr. Culber. Because of the use of the memory technology and going on that spiritual journey, it seems like it would be really interesting to experience those things from Dr. Culber's perspective. And just the general approach to things. It's very refreshing to see that character every week. Dave, what about you?
Same answer to me. It's Culber, because in this episode, you know, he's going through feeling like something is wrong, and we've all had that in our lives. Come on, we all have to admit it. We've had that feeling in us that, you know, why am I here? What am I doing? You know, where am I going? You know, those kind of things. And he, you know, he had the Trill in him, and, you know, he felt something different that he's never felt before. And now that that's gone, he's almost trying to find that again. But at the same time, at the end of this episode, he finds that spiritual freedom, an awakening, you know, that gives him that relief that he's never had. Can you imagine having that kind of spiritual relief in life? Because if you got that, you would feel incredible. Nothing would be wrong. And for him to seem like he's captured that, that's something special. And, you know, that's the character I would want to have been in this for sure. Wayne, what about you?
Could I just add one thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
That you just made me think of. Culber's relationship with Paul Stamets. How that factored into this episode was also just so heartwarming, because you know that Culber's having a hard time kind of like coming to grips with this, and kind of like, I don't know, is he going to understand? Am I going to be able to go on this journey with him, and all this other kind of stuff, and gets nothing but support.
Yeah,
that is amazing for something like this. And at the time that it's happening, it just further strengthens their relationship, which I think is one of the best parts of this series.
Absolutely.
Sorry, Wayne, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm with both of you. I chose Culber too. You know, he's been apparently very affected by his time that he was host to the Trill Janal, and I agree with David. You know, he's experiencing a sort of spiritual awakening. You know, I really like his interaction, the interaction between Culber and Stamets, and also that scene at the end with Booker. You know, Booker gave him some very Star Trek-y advice there, and it was a nice way of ending. What did he say? It's an odd quirk, this human tendency to consider something less meaningful if it's just for yourself. I love that. It was very well written.
Yeah, that is.
All right, now comes my favorite part, where we dive deep into the episode and see if we can pull out any Easter eggs. And there were only a couple in this episode. Again, this is the third episode that Doug Jones doesn't appear as credited for, but now we have an answer why. He revealed last week that his absence from the show is a result of him working on the film Hocus Pocus 2. And while we won't see him in the next two upcoming episodes, he will be back for the finale. So I'm really glad to hear that.
Yep, absolutely.
The Easter eggs I found, and the big one was about the Rain Towers. I hope I pronounced this right. I'm terrible with this name. The Rain Towers were built by the Danubilians. That's a race that we are very familiar with in Star Trek, especially Star Trek Enterprise. Dr. Phlox was a Danubilian. And I have to give credit to the art department, because the computer interface that Burnham finds that was disguised as a rock, it matches perfectly the design of the Danubian computers that were in the episode of Enterprise called Cold Station 12. I mean, that's doing your research. I love that.
Wow, that's impressive.
And then also another little thing that I noticed after on the list that Kovich gives Burnham, one of the names after they cross off the name that for this episode, Dr. Creel leaves only one name left, Marina Derricks of Beta Z, which obviously that's named after Marina Sirtis.
Oh, yeah.
Famous Beta Z Mall. I mean, I know we're not going to be visiting Beta Z. I don't think so in the next episode, but I hope we do see it in episode 8 because I like to see how it's doing in the 32nd century. All right. Well, we've seen a sneak peek of the upcoming episode, but judging from the clip, what do we think is going to happen next?
So it looks like they have Mullen Locke.
Yeah,
They're like
one of them.
interrogating at least one of them. It seems like because from what I saw, like Booker wanted to get involved in it, but obviously they're not going to let him. But yeah, that seems like what's happening in the next episode. I guess that's what the whole episode is going to be about. I'm assuming is them interrogating.
They didn't show us much, did they?
No.
Just that little 1-minute clip. Looked like we're back at Starfleet headquarters.
Yeah,
and they've captured just like what you said. I do know that the Breen is back next episode. So it sounds like it could be an exciting one, but judging from that, your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, I mean we've only got 4 episodes left, so they better get moving along.
Yeah, they got to start tying up the story quick because they got a lot of story points to tie up.
Yep.
So do I have it right that the next episode is called Eriga?
Yeah.
So we're going to get more into that, hopefully more of the Breen culture, and yeah, it'll be very interesting to see.
Yeah.
Well, looking forward to it.
And that's it for this episode of Phasers Set to Stun's look at Discovery Season 5, Episode 6. We'd like to open a channel to our listeners and hear just what you thought about the most recent episode and the season in general. Who knows, you might even be mentioned in a future show. You can email us at afilmbypodcast@gmail.com. Find us online at afilmbypodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And if you're looking for more exclusive content or swag, you can join our Patreon and find out what gems are hidden within. Thank you, Scott and David, for joining me and the listeners on another fascinating episode.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Now, there are only 4 more episodes left for this season and for the series itself. Next episode, we take a look at Episode 7, titled Eriga. We look forward to returning to the 32nd century again on next week's episode of Phasers Set to Stun.